I didn't come from Omaha to Minnesota.
You didn't?
I went to work, after I got out of the Army, I went to work for New York Life Insurance Company,
Oh.
knowing that I was going to be transferred to Des Moines. I wouldn't be in Omaha. So, moved to Des Moines, 3 years there, and then they closed the office there. And there were 3 places that people could go, either to Kansas City, Minneapolis, St. Paul, or Chicago. And I said, I want to go to Minneapolis. I'll go to Kansas City, but if they send me to Chicago, I'm quitting. Well, then I changed my mind. I had an uncle and aunt in Chicago. So I moved there. And then after 3 years there, they had an opening in Minneapolis, and they asked me to transfer up to Minneapolis. So, and I've been here ever since. The church first, they knew that I had worked for New York Life and in handling money and everything, so they wanted me to do the church collection.
You've been doing the collection since 1965?
No.
Oh.
When I retired.
66.
Oh,
Oh,
when you
okay,
retired.
okay.
But still, for 20-some years, you
Yeah.
have been doing the church collection.
Well, I had to do something. I knew Mary Davini from church.
Mother Mary.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she really didn't want any help at the food shelf. She wanted total control.
She was a one-man show.
So she would let me pick up the daily bread at Jubilee and do some other things. So I finally, worked my way into helping her. When Mary finally retired at age 90, then the food shelf I took over. So I was in charge for a number of years.
Yes.
Until Shelley took over. So,
Wow.
doing that, so.
And you still do things with food, work with them?
Well, I still pick up the daily bread at Jubilee and do all the thank yous yet. I've been doing that for 30 or 25 years. So.
Everybody gets a handwritten thank you.
So you send handwritten thank yous to everybody for donating?
$50 or more. If it's under 50, then we don't send a thank
Right.
you.
But it's coming from you. You wrote it.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
It's quite a commitment.
But my handwriting now has gotten shot. I used to have very good handwriting, but now it's just my nerves are shot. So you can tell from my writing and the stuff.
Still better than most people's.
Well, I don't think so, but anyway.
So you've seen the food shelf come through some pretty big changes, especially through COVID, how many people they're serving now. And
Yeah. Well, back then, originally, they had, food shelves had territory, and there was a food shelf in Maple Plain, one over in Excelsior. And the only ones that could really come to our food shelf were in our territory, which was Mound, and up until close to Maple Plain and out to St. Bonnie. There was a food shelf at St. Bonnie way back when. So
it kind of consolidated?
Well, with the increase in the food shelf in St. Bonnie was so small that it finally closed, and the one in Maple Plain closed, and then now the food shelf, anybody in the state of Minnesota can come to the food shelf over here.
Oh, wow.
It's worked its way out now.
Yeah.
But I think the parish council, and I was on the first parish council here. And I
Wow.
was on 3 different parish councils at times. Uh, But the first parish council, it was by district, and I lived in
Yeah.
Spring Park at the time. And so Carl Widmer and I were the ones from Spring Park that were on the parish council. Yeah, Father Tegeter was
I've
He
heard
was-
some wonderful stories about him.
Everybody says his name with a smile.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's everybody's favorite priest. Would you say he was yours?
yes.
Yeah. What did you love about him so that makes him your
Well,
favorite?
he was so down to earth, he's just like one of your friends. It just, he was a friend to everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
except maybe the archbishop.
That's what we also have heard, that he was in trouble a lot with the
Kind of
archbishop.
a rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was what the bishop would call a troublemaker.
Just would do things his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You saw.
And he golfed
But-
with us
Oh, that's
sometimes. But he was so down to earth that
just
everybody-
one of the people.
Yeah, just one of the people.
He was
And
so
he was-
approachable.
He was so kind too.
Yeah.
In a lot of times it was on the quiet, he didn't ever look for recognition or anything like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of a priest for all the right reasons. You know?
Well, and it's kind of sad now that more people don't attend church. I think there are fewer people, plus with the mass, the 10:30 mass that you do on the TV, but I'm sure that there aren't as many people attending as there were years ago.
That's
I
It
totally
used-
agree.
The church used to be packed at like 10:30 mass would be packed on a
Mhm.
Sunday way back years ago.
Yes.
Well, and after I retired, I started going to mass every day. And I've done that now ever since I retired.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to St. John's and Excelsior, I go over to St. Teresa and Deep Haven, I go up to Holy Name in Medina,
Yeah.
different days, so.
Right.
just so you never miss.
The only time I've missed is like Holy Saturday, because there's no mass anywhere on Holy Saturday.
Yeah.
It's part of my life, part of my day. It's, as Father might say, it's the most important thing in my day, so
Yeah.
that's why I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, you know what, do you ever wish we could do a better job of letting people know what they miss out on when they decide to stay home on Sunday morning or Saturday night or?
Well, yeah, it's, I could tell people, but, people have their own routine. I don't like to tell people
What to do?
what they're doing wrong or not doing or that. But yeah, it's a routine that some people, and like the different churches I go to, the same people are the ones going to the mass, so I guess I could go over to St. John's in Excelsior and say, these are the 10 people that, or 20 people or 30 people that come in every day, because, I know, especially like at St. John's, if somebody doesn't see me for a week, because maybe I went someplace else and something was changed, like when we do the bulletins, then I go to Wednesday at 9 o'clock, I go over here, except the day we're doing the bulletins, I go over to St. Teresa and Deep Haven at 7 in the morning, and so I'm doing the bulletins,
Making sure you get it in. That is so great.
So do they call and check up on you? Do they worry? They're like, Jack, where are you?
I've had people call and,
That's so nice, knowing that you're missed.
yeah.
Well, you created a community, right? Well, I know that when we don't see you at Mass, where's Jack? We're there with you. That's awesome.
Well, now I go to both masses on Sunday and both the 5:30 on Friday also, so I'm around that people can see that I'm around.
Alive and well. Have you always stayed on the path, or did you ever?
No, I pretty much stayed on the path.
Wow, good for you.
You never lost your way.
No, I never got away from church. It was just it was a way of life.
Like breathing. So when you were in the military, you still.
Yeah, they had priests, and of course I was only in for regular army for 6 months. When I went to Creighton University, and that was they had ROTC, and those of us that were smart, everybody had to go 2 years. Those of us that were smart took the additional 2 years, so you get out and become an officer.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got out of college, back then, it was before the Vietnam War,
Mm-hmm.
after the Korean War and before the Vietnam War, and so they didn't really need all that many officers. So those of us in that group, basically, instead of going 2 years service, you just went 6 months and then was in the reserves for 7.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and then we used to have to go to summer camp 2 weeks out of every summer.
Oh, like for the reserve, yeah.
So,
Were you ever called up to active duty?
No, I was assigned to an agent's gun, which is the biggest, at that time, that was the biggest artillery piece that the government, the country had. And that wasn't
Jeez.
conducive when the Berlin Wall was, and there were people going over to Berlin. But we got a call, but then they decided no, they didn't need 8-inch guns over in Berlin.
Wow, that must have been kind of tense.
Well, and I mean, the Army, you got to be careful too. Because one time, when I was with the Army in the 6 months, we got a call up to go out and, like, it was an exercise, but it had to be immediately. You didn't know until you got a call this morning at 6 in the morning, and you had to be out there before noon, type of thing. So anyway, there were 3 batteries in the artillery, with A battery, B battery, C battery. So I was assigned, I was one of the an A battery. So we went out, fired, no problem. B battery goes out and fires, no problem. C battery goes out and fires off post.
Oh.
So there was, when I was through with my 6 months, they were still having an investigation as to
What happened?
they fired off post. Well, fortunately, out Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It's all desert
And
country.
yeah, so you're
out
not
there,
shooting
so-
at anybody.
You know, when the shots that went out there didn't hit anything.
Oh my gosh.
But even
Did they all fail?
and then like when I went down to Fort Riley, Kansas, in my after my junior year in college, they all the people in ROTC had to go for 2 weeks in the summertime. Well, one time we'd have to go out and set up targets. You'd have to raise the target and then they shoot at it. And you know, well, we're out there and
I can only
one of the regular officers in the Army told them to start firing, and we were behind the targets. If you ever had a bullet go by close,
yeah.
it didn't take long to go duck.
Yep.
And the guy in the who had us in the target area, he got a hold of this guy who gave the order, and he wasn't an officer, but he just reamed this guy out.
Oh, I bet. Oh my gosh, that must have been just,
And of course, the guy in charge wasn't going to say anything,
Yeah.
complain about a recruit or somebody that wasn't an officer reaming him out. He wasn't going to say
Yep,
anything.
he almost killed a bunch of
oh my gosh.
So,
Oh.
Oh, I bet you've got a lot of stories, huh?
so I'm a veteran, but I don't feel like a veteran.
Do you, because you didn't fight in a,
Yeah.
you are. You still gave your time.
Yeah, I put in the time that they asked, so.
Yeah.
Like you said, you were one of the smart ones. And you're still one of the smart ones today.
Yeah.